Wednesday, February 27, 2008. Police officers in Malden, Massachusetts are embroiled in a desperate search. The target of their search is a 41-year-old hair salon owner named Norma Gilles. She was last seen at her salon 2 weeks earlier.
She was just gonna go next door to a shop to get coffee, and she never returned.
Police are canvassing the area looking for Norma's silver Toyota Corolla.
As detectives drive up Faulkner Street, just a couple blocks from Norma's salon, they spot something.
Hold on, you know what? I think this is our car, man.
It was parked, legally parked, on the side of the street.
Run the plates.
Detective Hetty and I got out at the same time.
Yeah, this is it.
I walk up to the car. He's by the passenger side. I looked in the car. First thing I saw was her purse.
They immediately called for a tow truck, and the vehicle was towed to the Malden Police Department for examination.
Hey. Hey, it's Montina. Yeah, we got the car. Yeah, we should go ahead and tow it in so we can take a close look at it.
Hey, Ray, what you got?
Right now, just the purse.
As police process the car, they look for any piece of evidence that might shed light on Norma's whereabouts.
Detectives, you might want to take a look at this.
What they find triggers an entirely new search, a search for a killer.
Everyone's worst fears were realized the moment that they opened up the trunk.
But as one mystery reaches a climax, another is only beginning. One that will bring the community in Malden face to face with evil.
Shock. Everyone, shock.
Everybody was doing all they could, and it just was such a mystery.
Norma Gilles was born in the suburbs of Port-au-Prince, Haiti in 1967, one of 7 children.
Norma is the youngest of them all, and she always the baby in the family, the last one of my parents.
Even as a little girl, Norma was known for her intellect and her ambition.
She's very, very intelligent, very smart in school. When she was little, if she doesn't get an A or 100 or something, she'll be mad.
As a young woman, Norma decided she would have a better chance of success in a country with more opportunity.
She immigrated to the United States, as did her brother and sister.
Norma eventually settled in the city of Malden, Massachusetts in 1999, where she felt the transition to American culture would be eased by fellow Haitian immigrants.
So Malden is north of Boston, about 10 miles north of Boston. It's very diverse in terms of its population.
There are more than 100,000 of Haitians living in Massachusetts.
Malden's thriving expat Haitian community proved to be the perfect place for a budding entrepreneur like Norma to realize her dreams.
She wanted to open a beauty salon.
Under Norma's care and guidance, the business soon took off.
Norma has always wanted to have a business to beautify people, to make people pretty.
In the Haitian community, a beauty salon is more than a beauty salon. That's where people go for them to hang out. That's where people come to ask for advice when they've got some problem. It's really more than sitting down at a beauty salon.
Most of the people you see there, they are not really doing business. They come in there to socialize because they know you.
Norma quickly became a pillar of Malden's Haitian community. So much so, everyone referred to her by her nickname.
So, Mama, you remember that cute guy I was telling you about?
What guy?
Norma, no one ever called her Norma. Everyone knows Norma as Mama. That's her nickname, Mama.
I was supposed to go on a date the other day.
Norma was really caring person, like a mother to everybody.
You're a beautiful, strong woman. You deserve better than that.
A generosity of spirit that was rooted and inspired by Norma's deep religious conviction.
Norma was an extremely religious person. She would compose words to songs and poems for her church. It was just a significant part of who she was. Everybody described Norma as a ray of sunshine, that she just brightened everyone's day that she came into contact with.
Beautiful, successful, caring. It was no surprise that Norma caught the eye of many a young man. But it wasn't until the year 2000 that love finally came knocking on her door.
Oh, you scared me, Christian.
I'm sorry.
Norma starts dating a fellow Haitian immigrant named Christian, whose family owns a hair salon as well.
They introduced him to Norma, and then they fell in love and they got married.
I was just wondering, do you want to go downtown to that new restaurant?
Downtown restaurant? Why?
Because you're looking gorgeous and you're my wife and I would like to take you out.
You like my new dress?
Yes, I love it.
It's for church. I'm going to church, Christian.
Once the newness of the relationship wore off, it was clear that Norma and Christian had different priorities.
You can't miss one day of church?
Not today, Christian, no. I made a commitment.
Christian didn't like the fact that she spent the whole Sunday away. He didn't appreciate that. Norma have to go to church, come home, and then go back again in the afternoon. I don't think Christian understand that because that's the way we grew up. We grew up very religious.
In 2004, the couple divorced. In the years that followed, Norma poured her heart and soul into her job.
Norma always wanted to be the best. That's the kind of person she was.
Over the years, there were rumors in the community that Norma may have found new love. But getting a straight answer from her wasn't always easy.
Norma was a reserved person. She's a type of person, she will come over and talk to you about a business. So when you're starting to open a door to something else that related to her, she closed it.
But in a tight-knit community like Malden, secrets are bound to come out. And in late 2007, that's exactly what happened.
You gonna come back and take me to church in the morning?
Bright and early.
Norma met a new person in her life, Eve North, and he actually had been someone who was part of their social circle. He was a nice young man who worked at a full-time job, and they had a nice dating relationship.
With a second chance at love, this already successful woman was poised to have it all. But on the eve of Valentine's Day 2008, a seemingly clear path took a wild turn. One that would send Malden's tight-knit Haitian community reeling.
This was a big mystery in the community.
Norma left the salon and just said, "I'll be right back," and walked out. And her coworker never saw her again.
After years of searching, Haitian immigrant turned successful salon owner Norma Gilles found who she believed was the man of her dreams.
Norma begins this great new relationship with Eve in 2007. He was Haitian like her and seemed like an amazing guy who was really making her happy.
But then, on the morning of February 13th, 2008, Norma Gilles steps out of her shop on a busy Wednesday morning with hardly a word to her employees.
Norma went to work that morning, pretty much like any other morning, and took care of a client, and then stepped out for coffee.
I'm going for coffee. Be right back.
All right, Mama.
And that was the last time anybody saw her.
The next day, multiple calls to Norma's phone go unanswered.
People were trying to reach Norma throughout the day and were unsuccessful.
Norma's brother Jules begins to worry. He calls the salon repeatedly throughout the day. That afternoon, his call is finally answered. The person on the other end is 48-year-old Leslie Cheramond, the owner of the store adjacent to Norma's salon.
Leslie?
They actually shared space because she kept her products in his store that he sold for her hair products and other beauty products that she didn't have room for in her salon.
Is Norma there? I need to talk with her.
Oh, no. She's not back yet.
Leslie, pick up. I said, please pass me Norma, because I want to know why she did what she did. He said, oh, no, yeah, she's not back yet. I said, what you doing there? He said to me, yeah, I'm just cleaning.
Well, if she happens to pop up, have her call me immediately. I need to talk with her.
Okay.
Thanks.
After another hour passes with no word from Norma, her brother Jules pays a visit to Norma's salon. What he finds is alarming.
A sign was on the door of the shop saying closed for a week.
Hello?
My little cousin said, Jules, have you seen Norma? I said, no, I went to the store. I see it closed for vacation. He said, yeah, we passed by there too. That's what I saw.
For Norma to close up shop with no explanation is completely out of character.
In this community where everyone knew her so well and she ran a business, no one could really explain it.
Norma would never just take off a week without notifying clients ahead of time.
Jules steps next door in hopes that Norma's neighbor, Leslie, might have some information.
Have you heard anything, seen anything strange or anything?
Yeah, last I heard, it was a U-Haul outside.
The guy was driving, she was getting to U-Haul, and then she told me that she's going to Florida.
Leslie's mention of Florida jibes with a plan Norma had quietly been discussing with her family in the days and weeks prior.
We talked about Florida, but I know she was saying that she wanted to go, but for her to leave and just leave a note and tell anybody, just didn't sit well.
Norma already asked me she's going to leave the state, she's going to Florida. Well, she was supposed to leave at the end of February, yeah, that year.
Jules reaches out to some family friends in Florida, but they inform him they haven't seen or spoken to Norma.
After 3 or 4 days, Mama is not in Florida. So now everybody starts to worry.
It's Leslie Sharamond that finally makes the suggestion that Jules has been resisting.
I don't know, you may want to contact the police.
It's just that, you know what, the best thing to do is, I don't know anything, you know, go to the police and see what they can find out.
The border probably was hoping that Norma will be probably ring the bell and said, here I am. I wasn't that far, but deep inside, I'm sure that he was feeling that something could have gone on.
On February 23rd, Jules formally reports Norma missing. Police immediately begin searching for her.
They were looking for her car, so they had the make and model and registration number. So they put out through the area police departments to be on the lookout for the car.
2 hours later, a detective came in. They said, well, they just came from Norma's house in Lane apartment. There is no disturbance. So it doesn't seem that she slept there, but the house, like nothing happened.
With every attempt to find Norma coming up empty, police must consider the possibility of criminal activity.
What you got?
Her bank account, there was no withdrawal of money. She was not communicating with anyone on her cell phone, and we had the cell phone company helping us with those records.
I get nothing. There's no debit card purchases, there's no withdrawals.
I guess it's time to make some phone calls to the people, see what we can find.
Investigators concentrate on those who had contact with Norma on a daily basis.
When investigating a case such as this, where a woman disappears and the police are concerned that her disappearance was not voluntary and that harm may have occurred to her, they absolutely want to look at the closest people to her.
But as this missing person investigation heats up, investigators will unearth evidence from the unlikeliest of sources.
She had a lot of friends, family. Mr. Chairman got on the radio and made appeals to people to see if he could find her, as well as her brother. He was trying to investigate her disappearance himself. Everybody was concerned.
It has been 10 days since 41-year-old salon owner Norma Gilles disappeared without a trace in Malden, Massachusetts. After filing a missing persons report, Norma's brother Jules takes his search for her directly to Metro Boston's Haitian community via a popular radio talk show.
Everyone's worried, so I ended up going to a Haitian radio station to tell them, to give them the description, the plate number of the car, if anyone see the car and everything.
My show is about everything, Haitian news, funny news, and domestic news, any type of problem with it. It's basically an open-air program.
The results are immediate, as community members reach out to both Jules and the police.
When I go on the radio, whenever people hear me talking, that's when a slew of information comes in, a slew of information.
They wanted answers, and there are people calling pretty much every day asking, is there anything done yet? What's going on with the case? Are you guys gonna find her?
All right. Thank you.
But investigators quickly realize that in this particular community, it isn't easy to separate fact from rumor.
Empty.
Not quite. Somebody called her and said she had problems with her boyfriend. but they didn't want to come in for questioning.
The Haitian community, in this part of the country anyways, is a very tight-knit community, and it's very hard to break into it in terms of investigation, in terms of getting their confidence or trust. They had a very difficult time getting interviews with people.
With this tight-knit Haitian community proving hard to crack, police reach out to Norma's friends and employees. They are particularly interested in learning more about her new love interest, Eve North.
How long have they been seeing each other?
Fairly recently, I believe.
Okay.
I spoke to another employee named Judith. During our conversation, she actually mentioned a guy that she thinks Norma was actually dating, which was Eve.
Thank you so much for coming in.
I knew Eve. That's the guy I went to high school with. I had his number on my phone.
Police are curious to know why Eve hasn't shown the same level of concern about Norma's disappearance as other friends and family members have, so they bring him in for questioning.
How you holding up?
About as well as anybody who could be holding up during these kind of circumstances.
Almost immediately, Eve says something that raises a red flag.
He says that he had driven by the salon, and I think that's about a week later. He had driven by the salon, and when he drove by the salon, he noticed that her car was parked a few streets away. He never reported that to anybody, when everybody else was concerned that she was missing.
Why you didn't call and tell us? I mean, we were looking for the car. It was all over the radio.
Well, hold on. I didn't know that she was missing. I mean, I just thought she was upset with me and not returning my calls.
Eve thought that Norma was voting him.
All right. But if you hear anything else, please let us know as quick as possible. Absolutely.
Authorities wonder if Eve is being completely forthcoming, but with no proof that he knows anything more about Norma's disappearance, they have no choice but to release him. Thankfully, within hours, police catch another break.
I got an anonymous call. Someone called in and says, all right, the car was parked on Cross Street in Malden. I met with Detective Headley, and I told him, all right, this is what's going on, so we need to go out and look for the car. Cross Street runs into Main. So as we left, I told him we're gonna start from Main Street and walk our way down. As we're driving up Faulkner Street, and he said to me, Detective Headley says, Mitch, here's the car. That's the car right there.
They spotted her car just a couple of blocks away from Norma's salon.
The car's proximity to Norma's salon yields a crucial detail. Since her disappearance, it appears the car had been moved.
Where the car was found, we could have just looked over and saw it. The car was never there. We drove up that street probably 3 times doing the investigation.
When the Malden police saw the vehicle parked on the side, they got out, they looked around.
Hey, Mitch, I think we got a purse.
And they could see through the front passenger's window that there was a woman's pocketbook on the floor in the front seat. In order to preserve the evidence that may be on the car, it was towed and then professionally processed.
The State Police Crime Lab comes in and they process the car to go through like fingerprints and DNA and all that.
As technicians scour the car, they have no idea they're about to make the discovery everyone has feared.
Detectives, you may want to come take a look at this. Looks like we got it.
Norma was found in the trunk of her car, wrapped in large, dark, black trash bags that were tied up with duct tape. She was in a fetal position. Her entire body was covered in trash bags, with the exception of one part of her lower back was exposed.
Police notify Norma's brother, Jules, with whom they'd been working so closely.
They said, Jules, we found the car and we found your sister, and she's not alive. She was in the trunk of the car. I'm sorry, Jules, she's not alive.
In an instant, the search for Norma Gilles has morphed into a murder investigation. And the key to finding the monster who murdered her may very well lie in Norma's personal effects.
Norma's pocketbook, finding that was really a gold mine because women don't go anywhere without their pocketbook.
According to the Center for Immigration Studies, there is zero connection between a community's crime rate and the number of immigrants who reside there. In fact, studies show that immigrants, both documented and undocumented, are far less likely to commit crimes than U.S.-born residents. Two weeks after Norma Gilles vanished into thin air, her body is found bound in garbage bags in the trunk of her own car, parked just a few blocks from her salon. The community that loved her is stunned.
People were shocked because Norma, she's a very nice girl, very respectful. She never had any issue with anybody.
I called my mother. She said, I already know the rules. I know, you don't have to tell me. I'm getting ready to come. It was hard.
Hey, detective.
Yeah.
Come look at something real quick.
When the medical examiner's report comes back, it reveals that Norma's death was even more gruesome than they imagined.
There was evidence that she had been raped multiple times.
She had some bruising on her face and on her neck, and her clothes had been taken off of her and then put back on, and not correctly. Her last minutes of life were horrible.
As word gets out, a close community accustomed to keeping its skeletons in the closet gets a rude wake-up call.
I think it was a blow to the Haitian community. I think it was incredibly painful for people to realize that this could happen in their midst.
Given the often personal nature of a crime such as rape, authorities rushed to bring Norma's boyfriend, Yves North, back in for questioning.
Being a police officer, you can't put anything past anybody.
A background search on Yves has also turned up a prior arrest.
The last time he got arrested was for domestic violence. He did some time.
You got priors. And everyone knows that my mom was having boyfriend trouble and you are reported as the boyfriend. And you have priors.
Mitch, come on, man. You know me. You know I wouldn't do something like this.
All right. When was the last time you saw her?
On the 13th, we spent the night together.
The night before, he had stayed in with Norma, and they had had consensual sex, and she had driven him to work on Tuesday morning, which was the last time he saw her.
During the interview with Yves, we asked him where he was, and he told us he was in Cambridge. We went over and talked to a couple of people. They actually corroborate what he told us.
Yves North's seemingly airtight alibi forces detectives to reconsider his possible involvement in Norma's death.
Yves wasn't the person of interest. We eliminated him from the investigation.
But the interview with Yves also uncovers a new twist to the story. One that's about to turn everything investigators know on its head.
Look, you guys got the wrong guy. Me and Mama, we was just dating. But her boyfriend, Leslie Sharman, that's the one you need to be looking at.
Leslie Sharman owned the store adjacent to Norma's salon. This was the same man who was so concerned with Norma's whereabouts in the aftermath of her disappearance.
Up until now, detectives thought Norma's relationship with Leslie was strictly business. But Yves North explains the bond between Leslie and Norma was extremely intense.
They met at this church. Leslie was a singer in the church.
Norma liked to write songs. Norma was writing songs for that choir in the church she was involved in. And then Leslie was the guy who played the guitar and piano in that church.
At some point, their friendship turned into a love affair.
They had a romance, moved in together, shared an apartment, and then ultimately came to be closely connected in a business sense when he moved into the store, the space that she rented right next to her hair salon.
Eventually, Norma and Leslie's relationship faltered, and they broke up.
My understanding about their relationship, it was a good relationship at the beginning, but that within a very short period of time, Norma noticed that Leslie had very possessive and controlling personality, and that began to make the relationship very difficult for her.
According to Yves, Leslie became so volatile towards Norma that she had to file a restraining order against him. 3 months later, Norma and Yves began dating. At first, the situation with Leslie seemed to be resolved, but Yves reveals to Detective Montina that he and Norma recently had another run-in with her angry ex.
Yves said that he was sitting in a car one afternoon with Norma when Leslie spotted them, and and approached them in the car.
He was acting all crazy.
He pulled up and came up to the side of the car.
What the hell is this?
And demanded to know who he was and what he was doing with Norma.
Leslie, what do you want? What are you doing here?
You don't stand between a man and his woman, okay? You need to calm down. You know what happens when you stand between a man and his woman?
Please, that's my friend, okay?
This ain't over.
Leslie was very jealous and very angry that Eve was dating Norma, and suggesting that almost that he and Norma were still a couple and that Eve was getting in between them.
I don't know, he just got really upset.
Eve's story sounds like a promising lead, but detectives know they have to tread carefully.
Eve could potentially be a jealous boyfriend himself, and that's not always the most reliable source.
But soon, a clue found in the pocketbook in Norma's car gives police reason to believe Eve's story.
Hey, check this out.
Norma carried a lot of important information in her pocketbook. It included the restraining order against Leslie. It also included a court document for her to appear in court that week in a trial against him.
When investigators pull the case file, they are shocked to learn just how dangerous Leslie had become.
The catalyst for their relationship changing was he came home one night and demanded sex.
Leslie, not right now.
Norma said she wasn't interested, and he threw her on the bed and pinned her down, and she ended up going to the police and brought charges against him for attempted strangulation and assault and battery.
That's what this upcoming trial was about, this alleged assault. Leslie was ordered to vacate their apartment, but he was still allowed to operate his business, which was right next door to Norma's.
With evidence against him mounting, authorities decide it's time to sit down with Leslie Sharamond and determine once and for all if he was the monster behind Norma Gilles' murder.
I didn't put it together. That's what kills me every single day.
Domestic violence is actually a little bit of a problem in the Haitian community. The guy would tell them, all right, if you talk to the police and tell them that I abused you, I beat you, you're gonna get deported. So they're scared. It's a sign of fear. They don't wanna do anything with it because they feel like, all right, if I get deported, when I go to Haiti, it's gonna be tough for me, because Haiti is really tough. That's why it's really kind of hard with the domestic violence in the Haitian community.
February 27th, 2008. Just hours after the body of Norma Gilles was found in the trunk of her car, Malden police are investigating fellow Haitian immigrant Leslie Sharamond as the prime suspect. In addition to running the business adjacent to Norma's, Leslie was also her ex-boyfriend and had allegedly assaulted Norma in the final days of their relationship. According to records uncovered by detectives, Norma had filed a restraining order against Leslie, and an assault trial was pending against him.
He was allowed to, run his business, which was adjacent to hers on Salem Street. But he was to vacate the apartment and to have no other contact with her except what was necessary in their business relationship.
When police speak with Leslie, he doesn't deny the fact that he and Norma had a turbulent relationship.
Leslie, I'm Detective Headley. This is Detective Montina. I'd like to ask you a few questions if you don't mind.
Okay, sure.
From what Leslie actually told us when we were in there, they had a fallout, but he was trying to patch things up.
We are aware of the restraining order. You sure you didn't have anything to do with her murder?
No, I loved her.
She got in the U-Haul the day she disappeared.
They were trying to work things out, but Norma would not listen to him. He said when Norma walked by, he tried to go out and talk to her, and she said she didn't want to talk to him, and jumped in the truck and left.
Leslie Sherman was quite contradictory. He didn't tell anybody the same story, whether it was Norma's brother or the police who are investigating, or even people in the salon after her disappearance.
I told you, she got in a car and she left.
She got into a car? I thought you said she got into a U-Haul.
Yeah, right, U-Haul.
After a few questions, I was like, this guy is not being truthful. He's lying.
We'll be in touch.
Authorities know it will take more than suspicion to bring murder charges against Leslie. They subpoena Norma's phone records, hoping to pinpoint her whereabouts at the time she went missing.
Detectives looked at the unanswered calls that came to Norma's phone during the dates of her disappearance.
Her cell phone was, emitting signals to a cell tower. And as a result of that, they can create kind of a circumference of area where the person may be.
As detectives analyze the data, they discover Norma's phone was pinging off a tower in Everett, Massachusetts on the morning of February 14th, which was nearly 3 miles away from her salon in Malden. But that's not all.
Found out that Leslie Sherman was living in Everett.
This was a day after Norma's disappearance, and it was clear that that cell phone was on the move. And that cell phone was found in the car when they discovered the body.
Which suggests to detectives that not only did Leslie murder Norma, he used her vehicle for several days after committing the crime.
He drove the car back and forth from his house in Everett to Malden.
It's enough for police to get a search warrant for Leslie's home and shop.
The investigators executed the search warrant in Sherman's shop, and they found a key to Norma's car, a key to her salon, and in a closet they also found trash bags of the same kind that had been used to wrap her body, as well as duct tape and blood on the floor.
It's a shocking development, one that implicates a pillar of Malden's Haitian community in an act of unspeakable brutality.
Leslie was driving Norma's car with a body in the trunk of the car and going to church while the body was still in the car.
Leslie belonged to a church, and he played the guitar at the church, sang at that church, while Norma's body was in the trunk of the car.
That shows you what kind of animal that it was.
An arrest warrant was issued, and we went to Everett, where he was living, and arrested him.
I was surprised he was arrested.
I was shocked by the news.
But if justice is to be meted out, prosecutors will have to withstand one last startling claim from Leslie and his defense team.
It's not every day that a murder defendant takes the stand, so no one had any idea what was going to come out of Leslie's mouth.
Nearly 1 month after Norma Gilles' tragic death, store owner and ex-boyfriend Leslie Sharamond is in custody for murder in Malden, Massachusetts. Police have handed the case to state prosecutors, who are hard at work bolstering their case against Leslie.
We began to build the forensic evidence that we would use at trial.
Analysis of Norma's autopsy report and the search of Leslie's properties reveal a significant DNA link.
During the investigation, when we processed the crime scene at his store on Salem Street, we found her DNA in the place.
They found evidence of blood on the toilet seat in the bathroom.
A sample of Leslie's DNA is also found on Norma's body.
When they did DNA, they found that Leslie was actually chewing a piece of gum, and during the struggle, that gum actually felt in Norma's bra, and they found his DNA in there as well.
In June of 2009, more than a year after Norma's murder, Leslie Sharamond's trial gets underway at the Middlesex Superior Courthouse. Prosecutors take the floor and unfurl for the jury a story of a violent man consumed by jealousy.
What we learned about Leslie Sharamond, he was a very jealous, controlling man. And when he could no longer control Norma, and when he saw she was never going to come back to him, and that she was moving on with her life, he just couldn't stand it.
He think that he owned Norma, and Norma didn't have a life on her own. Everything depends on him. It's him first. So if he cannot have Norma, she must as well as be dead.
Norma not only had a new man in her life, she was also intent on testifying against Leslie at the upcoming trial for his alleged assault. So in effect, Leslie had two motives to kill Norma.
Prosecutors assert that on the morning of February 13th, 2008, Norma stepped out of her salon for coffee and soon crossed paths with Leslie.
Hey, is your new boyfriend gonna pay that rent you owe me? I'm just playing. Why don't you come in and talk?
I have somewhere to be.
5 minutes.
5 minutes.
He actually called her inside. She came in. They were talking. During their conversation, something happened.
Why don't you want to work things out?
I didn't come here to talk about that.
They argued, and that argument led to his attack on her and his murdering her.
You said 5 minutes?
No,
it's
no,
over.
no, you're going
Don't touch me.
There was evidence that she had been raped multiple times. There were also bruises all over her neck and upper body from where she had been struck and ultimately strangled to death.
And it was at that hour, early morning hours of February 14th, that he moved her body from his shop and put it in the trunk of her car. He then drove the car a short distance to Faulkner Street, where the police found it 2 weeks later.
For Norma's family and friends, it's a litany of horrors too painful to bear.
I couldn't hear the details anymore. I couldn't hear it exactly. I couldn't bear because I didn't know.
Her mother was crying so hard, they had to take her out.
When the prosecution rests, Leslie's defense team argues that the notion of jealous rage is inaccurate. In fact, they say, Norma and Leslie's post-breakup relationship had smoothed out over time.
There was no independent evidence that anything violent had happened. In fact, to the contrary, they worked very closely over the next few months and year, where they had businesses side by side. So the evidence was, at least to the objective observer, that these two were both friendly.
The defense's assertion seems to sway the jury. But then, their client makes the bold and potentially risky decision to take the stand in his own defense.
Defendants like Leslie are discouraged all the time from taking their own defense.
I think it's always a difficult prospect for a defendant to get up and testify with a prosecutor waiting to cross-examine.
In Cross, prosecutors zero in on the issue of how Leslie's DNA ended up on Norma's body.
His defense essentially was that the day before, they had had consensual sex in his store, and that she wouldn't have changed clothes from one day to the next, and that the chewing gum came because she loved chewing gum and he would share his gum with her, and it must have just, gotten stuck on her shirt.
On June 17, 2009, both sides rest. Justice for Norma is now in the hands of the 12 jurors.
The jury came back after, I believe it was 2.5 days of deliberation, guilty on all counts: murder in the first degree and aggravated rape.
For Norma's friends and family, the verdict is met with relief.
Extremely happy. That's the way I felt at that time. You didn't put somebody on earth, you have no right to take his or her life.
They're in tears inside the courtroom. It was pretty good that, he was found guilty, knowing that, they got the justice for the family.
A dumb, stupid, ignorant, murderer, criminal. That's what I know he was a criminal.
At Leslie's sentencing hearing on June 22, 2009, Norma's loved ones make sure the judge is aware of how beloved she was and how her murder left a huge void in all of their lives.
At the sentencing, Jewel was able to speak, and he brought Norma to life in the courtroom. It was all about who Norma was alive, and it was very beautiful, and it was very moving, and it was about how they would all remember her in her life, and not in the horrible, violent way she died.
I want people to remember Mama as the kind, friendly, good-hearted girl who loved church, who loved Jesus.
Mr. Chairman was sentenced to life without parole. That is the statutorily mandated punishment in the state of Massachusetts for murder in the first degree.
Leslie deserved what he got, and he should have getting more punishment. So we're waiting for another justice from God.
But justice on earth will only go so far in bringing peace to broken hearts.
What he did was heinous, and nothing is going to bring Norma Gilles back. And that's a huge loss for her family, her friends, her church, the whole community. And it's really quite sad.